be talking to the renowned economist of the country, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, this evening to really ask, is this really a big achievement? The Modi government is trying to project this as GST 2.0 reforms. It comes as a big achievement, but we all know, is it to neutralize the vote chori campaign of the Congress? Joining me this evening is Santosh Mehrotra. He joins us this evening on Truth Be Told. Professor, thank you so much for joining. And my first question to you is this really a big achievement? Or is it some kind of a band-aid treatment given to a wound which is 8 years long?
Neeluji, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I have to say that it would have been a great achievement had this been introduced 8 years ago in this form. 8 years down the road, after making so many companies and so many consumers, millions of consumers suffer, I cannot sort of be that supportive. Of course, I support the fact that it's being done, but it's way too late. So, because it is so late and because of the very many factors which have been reducing consumer demand, whether this reduction in indirect tax rates is going to suddenly boost demand remains to be seen. Now, I have to say that there will be some boost to demand for the bottom of the pyramid, meaning the bottom 50% of the country's population. How much of an increase is, I think, questionable for the following reasons. The reasons are that A, non-farm jobs have not been growing. B, real wages have not been increasing, which is the reason why C, household debt has been increasing. And that has shown up in what Mr. Chidambaram said is the decline in household savings as a proportion of GDP. Household savings as a proportion of GDP are, at levels which prevailed some 20 years ago or more. Now, that is absolutely tragic, and the reason for that is what I just said, that if people don't have jobs, then or their jobs are such that their earnings are not that great, which is shown in both self-employed earnings as well as casual wage labor wages as well as regular worker wages, then what people end up having to do, unfortunately, is borrow. And what we know are the two ways in which consumers have been borrowing in our country are the following. Middle class people have access to bank loans, so they've taken personal loans, whether it is to buy durable goods or they could be for personal consumption purposes. And because they have regular salaries and possibly formal jobs, some of them, they have access to institutional borrowing. Now, they will see this as a relief, no question. So to some extent, their consumption demand will rise, but the size of our middle class is not exactly very, very large. That leaves about 60% of the remaining population, which consists of both the not so well off in urban areas as well as the vast majority in the rural areas, who usually hold their savings, household savings, in the form of gold. So what we've seen, Neelu, in the last 4 or 5 years is since the COVID shock to the economy, is the following, that gold loans have increased. But before I speak about the gold loans, let me just say, what were the other shocks that this government had imposed upon the people of India, policy-induced shocks, starting before the GST, a badly designed and a poorly implemented GST. Let me just add, in respect of the GST itself, why do I say badly implemented? A few years ago, you will recall that there was a public quarrel between Infosys on the one hand, which is the body, which is the company, Bangalore-based, multinational company, software company, led, of course, by the likes of Narayan Murthy and so on, founded by them. There was a public fight about, why there are still problems in the computer software that is used in the filing of GST returns. Now, Infosys's contention was that the reason why this is the case is because the software was not allowed to be tested with users in advance, because the government was in a great hurry to impose the GST on the midnight hour of the 30th of June and the 1st of July, 2017. Now, because it was rushed through for whatever reason at that time, you'll recall tryst with destiny kind of moments were recalled, because there was a special session of the parliament that was called at midnight hour to announce this GST. Anyway, bottom line is, it was badly designed, and badly designed is why you are having to do the, collapse the 5 rates into 2 mainly, and badly implemented abolition. But let me go back to my narrative about what are the shocks that this government induced, policy-induced shocks. It began on the 8th of November 2016 with the demonetization of 86% of India's currency. That delivered a massive shock to the MSME sector, and they have hardly begun to recover from that. And they've recovered, they've just barely recovered to the level that they were at 8 years ago, 9 years ago, on account of that. The double whammy came with the GST, because the GST particularly adversely impacted small shopkeepers and so on, who now had to buy a computer, or they had to acquire or access a chartered accountant in order to file monthly returns of GST. It became a bit of a nightmare for them, and they, of course, kept making changes, and some, 4,000 to 5,000 new changes were made. Notifications kept being issued by the government to correct for the mistakes that they hadn't, and the snitches and the bugs that they had to fix in the GST. So can you imagine this situation being a continuous situation?